Good afternoon. Welcome back. This is Robert Chappell, executive editor of Madison365. Good to be back with you after a few days away. I appreciate your tuning in today. And as I noted in the little caption blurb thing, don't have a coronavirus update today. But we do have a lot to talk about because it's been away for a few days. We got a few things to get caught up on. Regarding the coronavirus data. What we could do possibly is take this opportunity to answer any questions that aren't related to specific days worth of data. So if you have any more general questions about the coronavirus situation or other news, just drop them in the comments and we'll get to those at the end here. But apparently there was a problem with the state's reporting database yesterday, which, to their credit, Public Health Madison-Dane County actually unsolicited emailed me this morning and said, we know you guys do a daily update. We want to let you know that today's numbers are going to be artificially low because of this problem that the database had at the state level. So we ended up not doing a Dane County update, and we asked them whether or not that would likely impact the rest of the state's data, and they weren't sure. And when we saw the state's data this afternoon, it's pretty clear that it was affected. So basically what I can tell you, and I'm just going to throw some numbers at you that just to demonstrate how meaningless these numbers would have been had I reported them today. Basically, had we gone ahead with the data we had, and if Public Health Madison-Dane County had not alerted us to that problem, we would have reported 5 new cases for Dane County today, which would have been like the best news in the past 2 months, and that would have been just really misleading and untrue had we reported that. So, and then at the state level, there were 3,800 tests reported, which even for a Sunday is really low. Saturday there were a little over 5,000 tests reported. So I don't think that number is anything close to accurate. Even on a Sunday where they're testing is on the low side, you're in the 5,000, 6,000 range, and I think it's probably even higher than that in reality. But there were 266 positive cases among those 3,800 tests that reported. So that would put it right around 7%, the positive test rate for Sunday, which is not wildly out of line with what we've been seeing. So, those numbers, I could feel a little bit better about reporting that there were 3,800 tests, 266 positive cases, new cases reported today, 7% positive test rate. But again, I don't think, let's put it this way, I'm not entirely confident that those numbers represent the true situation. So we just decided not to report those. I'm just letting you let you know that those are that's the data we have. We don't feel confident in claiming that as reality. So tomorrow. Oh, and one of the other thing too is that in the daily update that we do in the story that we publish, and then when I come on here and talk about it, we go through sort of other statistics as well. Excuse me, the local data in several counties, as well as the hospitalization data and racial disparity data, that kind of stuff, 7-day averages, all that stuff. None of that is going to be accurate. Like even if this 3,800 tests is 7% positive, that tells us something, I guess. But that's really all it tells us, is that of that small number of tests that we did get reported, 7% were positive. That's not worthless, but all the rest of that data, it just would not be reliable. So we don't want to publish anything that's misleading or that could be misleading. So that's why there's no real update today. I will say, however, that the last several days of data um, have not been good news either. And I'm going to interrupt myself here to I see Tommy letting me know that we're not live on YouTube, and I don't know. We've never been live on YouTube. So I don't know if there's something indicating that we should be live on YouTube. Is YouTube giving you a notification that we're supposed to be live on YouTube or something? We've never done this live on YouTube before. I always just put them on. I upload the video after we're done here on YouTube. The Jennifer is asking why the date is missing for today because she missed it. The date is missing for today because I'm not sure exactly what the deal is, but basically the state reporting database was down yesterday, so individual local counties were unable to report the data, basically. And it's functioning now. It'll be fine. And basically tomorrow we will have 2 days worth of data tomorrow. So we might set some big records tomorrow for a single day because it'll actually be 2 days worth of data. So I do want to talk about the last couple of days while I was away on vacation and unable to come on live here. The numbers were not continued to not be great, and as on Sunday yesterday, the percentage of positive tests was 10.5, which there's kind of this to me. 10% is kind of a threshold, right? I don't have the spreadsheet here. Yeah, we were like driving home when those numbers came out, so we were able to see the numbers, but we haven't updated our internal spreadsheet yet. But yeah, it was 10.5 yesterday, and 10% is kind of a threshold for me because, sort of just there's nothing magical about 10%, but public health people will tell you that if you really want to be mitigating, if you can't say you're mitigating the spread if you're above 10% of tests coming back positive. Now, even with that 10.5%, the 7-day average is going to be about 8.3%, maybe 8.4%, which is still too high for my taste. But if we would get to a point where we're 7-day average over 10%, that would be very, very bad. But even to get above 10% for one day, it makes me uncomfortable. The fact that we've been basically over 8% over the past 2 weeks, and at least in Dane County, nearly half of positive cases do not know where they could have gotten it from. So those two data points together indicate that it is still spreading more or less out of control. It's not spreading as fast as it was back in March, but that's because we're all wearing masks and being careful and stuff. But the fact that half of the people here in Dane County who get it don't know where they got it, and the fact that 8% of our tests are coming out positive tells us that we don't have a handle on this. If we did have a handle on it, if we really had it under control, we'd be below 3%, and we'd be closer to 85 or so percent of people who knew where they got it, because it would be spreading only within families or only within households or only within small clusters. But if you don't know, if you get test positive and don't know where you got it, that means you've been traveling among a lot of people. and you don't know which of them might have passed it to you, which means it's being passed in such a way that is impossible to trace, which is bad news. I think that's probably all I want to say about the data, except I'll say one other thing about the data. Our rate of transmission has remained pretty steady. It's still 1.11, which means that every 100 people who are infected will pass it on to 111 other people, which then I have 211 people who have it. And then each round of infection will grow by 11%. I shouldn't say will grow, has been growing by 11%. Each round of infection grows by 11% over the past week or so. So that's remained steady for a couple of weeks now. So that's not great either. That is the fifth highest in the United States. South Dakota right now is at 1.36. North Dakota 1.26. Iowa 1.25. Hawaii 1.15. And Wisconsin 1.11. I'll stress that those are estimates based on data that we have over the past 5 to 7 days. This model estimates that the range, our actual rate of transmission is somewhere between 0.89 and 1.35, with the estimate landing at 1.11. Okay, does that make sense? One other thing I'll mention about COVID before we go on to some other news, that I'm not sure when this got announced actually, because I must have missed it, but the Alliant Energy Center community testing site here in Madison was due to close today. It had originally was going to go through the middle of July, then it got extended to August 7th, and then it got extended to August 31st. And I said last week, I can't imagine that they will actually let it end on August 31st with the way the numbers are going. And I was right. It is now going to be open at least until September 19th. It is open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., except Tuesdays and Thursdays it's open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, if you work during the day or whatever, you can go after work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's free. They did add something. They said, anybody can get tested, and there's no reason for the average person not to get tested on a regular basis. But if you don't really need to be tested multiple times, don't, because each test costs like $100, and when we say it's free to you, but it's not free to the county, right? And they are using taxpayer funds to fund those things. So if you go get tested, if you feel like you might have been exposed, or if you're gonna if you have symptoms, or if you just it's just sort of as a sort of a public good, more people getting tested is better. But you getting tested 10 times over the course of 2 weeks doesn't actually help the public health data. If you've never been tested before, you being tested helps the data, right? It helps give us a more complete picture. You getting tested every other day doesn't really help that, and it actually just costs money. So if you don't have a reason to believe you need to be tested, go get tested once, but then not again. You don't have to get tested again, and they're asking that you not. Because they are kind of in. They're not unlimited supplies. We have more tests than we did before, but it's still not unlimited, and it's still not entirely free to the county. So that's all they were saying about that. So let's talk a little bit now about some of the other stuff that's been happening in the world, much of which revolves around Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's been a week now since Jacob Blake was shot in the back by a police officer. The police officer's name was revealed to be Rustin Shesky, a 7-year veteran of the Kenosha Police Department. There have been protests every day, basically, since then. The violence in the protests culminated on Wednesday. Was it Wednesday night or Tuesday night? I'm sorry that the days kind of blend together. That a white sort of counter protester shot and killed 2 people and wounded a third. Kyle Rittenhouse, 17 years old, was arrested in Illinois in those shootings. There's been some outrage, anger that Kyle Rittenhouse has not yet been extradited to Wisconsin. He's being held in Illinois. He did not attend his extradition hearing on Friday. There was a hearing on Friday to determine whether he would be transported back to Wisconsin. Thank you, Tommy. That was Tuesday. Boy, doesn't it seem like more than a week ago, though, doesn't it? That this all started. Anyway, Rittenhouse, the defendant, did not actually attend that hearing. His attorney attended that hearing and basically asked for a month so that Rittenhouse and his family could hire an attorney and prepare the case. And the judge granted that continuance of a month. There's a lot of people upset about that, and I want to say I've not been a court reporter for years and years or anything like that, but I've covered enough criminal justice type stories to know that that's really not remarkable. Basically, you when you're arrested or something like that, you're basically thrown into court almost immediately, and it is completely reasonable and really common to ask for a little bit of time to prepare your defense. I would anticipate that they would not actually fight extradition, which means that they're not going to wait a month and come back to court and make a case that he should be continue to be held in Illinois. My guess would be that he will take this time to hire an attorney. Lots of online fundraisers have raised a lot of money to pay for an attorney for him, which some people might find disturbing. But it's pretty normal to take a few days, hire an attorney, and then waive extradition, meaning basically concede that he should be moved to Wisconsin because that's where the crime occurred, even if he doesn't consider it a crime. Like, that's where the incident happened, and that's where he's going to have to be, face the charges and in his mind tell his side of the story, tell his self-defense story, or whatever defense he wants to make. But the fact that he didn't show up to the hearing and it got postponed by a month is not unusual. I just want to make that point. But also that I would expect within a week or two he will file a waiver of extradition, and he will actually be transported to Wisconsin, to Kenosha County, where he will face charges. I also would not be shocked if the trial takes place somewhere other than Kenosha County. There could be a pretty reasonable case made by the defense that a change of venue would be appropriate, considering the news coverage and the attention that the case has gotten. It might be difficult to find a jury who doesn't know anything about the case in Kenosha, right? Also, they might make the calculation that people in Kenosha actually would be sympathetic to a self-defense type story. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate too much on the legal maneuverings, but I just want to make the case that it's not necessarily something to be outraged about that he got a month postponement on his extradition. That's all. There were protests over the weekend. As I mentioned, the protests that continued throughout the week after that shooting on Tuesday night. I don't like the word peaceful. They're not necessarily peaceful, but they're quieter. They were not violent on Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, even into Saturday. The family of Jacob Blake actually wanted a specific march, event, action to take place on Saturday, and that happened. And we also had a protest here in Madison on Saturday, where a couple hundred people marched from Library Mall at the end of State Street over to the DOJ headquarters, because DOJ, the Department of Justice, is now the lead agency in charge of the investigation of that shooting of Jacob Blake. So those folks marched to DOJ yesterday and called on the Attorney General and the Administrator of the Division of Criminal Investigation to arrest Rustin Chesky and to hold him accountable for the shooting. Our reporter Fatima Cisse was there. She got some terrific pictures. It really captured the moment. If you look at Madison365.org right now, that story, I believe, is still on the front page. President Trump sounds like he's coming to Kenosha tomorrow. The governor has asked him not to. 7 out of the 23 county board supervisors in Kenosha sent him a letter today telling him, please do come. Hard to tell what he wants to accomplish. There's some people who are talking about they want to go protest his visit. Other people are saying don't give him what he wants. That basically what Trump wants is a big clash and a fight and division, and he wants basically Kenosha to look chaotic and violent. So other people are saying don't go protest. Whatever you decide to do, just take care of yourself, be safe, right? The one other thing about Kenosha is the day after the shooting, so this will be Monday, a week ago today, Governor Evers called the legislature into special session, and he scheduled that session for today, August 31st. It is my belief, my calculation, having covered this stuff for the past 5 years, that had this happened 6 months ago, nothing. This is not a disparagement of the governor by any means. It's not a criticism of the governor. 6 months ago, every public official would have put out a statement the day after the shooting and said something along the lines of thoughts and prayers. We need to have difficult conversations. We need to address these issues. And it would have been left there. The fact that the governor came out and said the words systemic racism, said the words police reform, said the words police transparency, and called the legislature into special section for a real a real grappling with actual policy that can actually do some good, is pretty remarkable, and is pretty different than things would have been about 6 months ago, right? So that says something about the moment that we're in, that the actual policy, people in elected officials, people in elected positions, people with power are actually trying to engage in real policy change. Is quite remarkable and quite different. And I don't mean to say it's good or bad or right or wrong, or that even to say that the governor did propose specific bills back in June. He's got specific proposed policy proposals, and I'm not going to speak in favor or against those policy proposals. But just the fact that policy leaders are immediately following the shooting of Jacob Blake actually looking at actual policy is different than it would have been a few months ago. Whether you like it or not, this is different. So that was remarkable. It was also remarkable, as Kitty points out in the comments, I really didn't expect this to happen. I really thought they would actually at least pretend to do something today. Because the president of the statewide police union, which normally would be opposed to police reform, actually said, we hope that the legislature actually convenes and actually does something. But they didn't. They gavelled the session in as is required by law. I don't even know what they did, but 18 seconds later they gavelled it out, and it was done. The assembly speaker, to be fair, has convened some sort of task force, and the governor's proposals are apparently going to be discussed by that task force. I don't know who's on that task force. I don't think they've been real public about it yet. But we will wait and see if anything happens there. Task forces, if you've ever worked in government, task forces are kind of where policy proposals often go to die. So we will see if anything happens on that front. So I think that is. Regina asks about the unmarked vans picking up and detaining Riot Kitchen, providing food and medical to Kenosha protesters on Wednesday and Thursday. I did see some stuff about that. Unfortunately, I just have not been able to really confirm anything additional to what other media outlets have already reported. So we haven't we have not covered that in any really, but just because we haven't been able to confirm anything other than besides what has already been reported. So we don't have anything to add to it. It does seem true that a group called Riot Kitchen that was bringing food and supplies to the protesters that got detained. They got their stuff confiscated. There were federal agents involved, which is really interesting. Now, the governor did not accept federal assistance. However, there are federal law enforcement agents in every state already. So that there is a U.S. Marshal Office in Milwaukee that provides assistance to local jurisdictions all the time. Not only that, but they also enforce federal law, in the states. So the fact that there's a U.S. Marshal there doesn't necessarily mean that the Governor Evers was complicit in that, because there was other federal assistance offered that he did not take. He did take some. FBI is involved, apparently. But yes, UWM. I think Journal Sentinel also reported on it. So there is media reporting out there. It's not hidden. I just haven't been able to confirm anything additional than what they've reported. Okay, so that's basically what I have for you today. I want to commend a couple other things to you. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes has been kind of the voice of the administration on this stuff in the national media over the past week. And he's the first black man in that job, and he's unapologetically black. He always has been. When the Milwaukee Bucks went on strike, one of the people they wanted to talk to was him, and they called him from the locker room. And he is speaking literally right now. Maybe they're done by now. They started at 4:00. Speaking with our CEO and publisher, Henry Sanders. He took a week off of doing Real Talk, his show that he does for us. But they're talking right now about everything that's happening. And we will have that interview up. I expect it to be very good. That'll be up tomorrow morning. So watch our Facebook, watch our YouTube, watch the site. And I'm looking forward to hearing that interview. I would definitely urge you to watch that. Black Oxygen, our still new. I guess we've had about 7 or 8 episodes now. Our interview podcast about being black in Wisconsin. We have a new one out this morning. It's Judge Everett Mitchell, who is a tremendously, just a really engaging person, and very intelligent, very insightful and thoughtful about growing up black, about being black in Madison. He talks about his being abused as a child and growing up in Texas and coming here and being here and what just the very literal fact of sometimes not being considered fully human or being seen. And it's a really, really tremendously good interview. I would definitely commend you to that. If you, we have a page on the site. I'll drop a link in the comments here. This is Madison365.org/Black Oxygen. or if if you're a podcast person, just go to your go to wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. You can just subscribe to Black Oxygen. And then, of course, our daily news podcast. It's only 10 minutes. The last few days we've been, excuse me, we've been a little bit over 10 minutes, but you can consider that like free bonus minutes. But there's lots to talk about. So, again, that's, I'll drop a link to that too. And that's also anywhere you get your podcasts, you can just subscribe to that and get your morning news updates every morning at 7:00 every morning. Regina, I see that your colleague's daughter was one of those detained. If there's any way you could message us or and put me in touch, that would be really great. Even if she's been interviewed by other outlets, I would love to speak with her, and maybe that could be a way in for us to be able to actually cover that incident. I mean, not that there's anything factually incorrect about any other reporting. They were definitely unmarked vehicles. There was definitely federal agents. There were definitely the police say that there was like riot gear and stuff in there, which doesn't necessarily mean anything, and it's also not illegal to have that stuff. But they basically are kind of seem to be disputing the contention that they were feeding people and that they thought they were just there to go cause violence or whatever. Okay, so if you could, Regina, just Facebook message us here or email us at news@madison365.org. Put us in touch with that person. That would be really great. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate your time. And we will be back tomorrow, hopefully, with more and better coronavirus data for you. Have a great evening.